What happens when a beloved Marvel superstar sits down at the table of one of daytime TV's most opinionated panels? And the conversation takes a turn nobody in the studio expects. Make sure to subscribe to the Star Talks and like and comment for more talk show coverage. The camera opens on the familiar table at the View. The audience is already buzzing. Whoopi Goldberg sits centered, calm as ever. To her right, Joy Behar flips through her cards with that half smile that usually signals she's ready to stir something. Across the table, the guest chair is filled by Mark Ruffalo. Relaxed posture, soft grin, hands folded loosely. Whoopi leans forward. We are very excited to welcome back Mark Ruffalo. Audience cheers. A few people stand. Mark laughs. That's very kind. Thank you. Joy chimes in quickly. You always get the loud applause. I'm starting to take it personally. Mark smiles politely. I can take some of that home with me if you want. Light laughter. The tone is easy. Comfortable. Whoopi begins. You've been busy. Producing, acting, activism. You're everywhere. Mark nods. I try to stay busy. It keeps me out of trouble. Joy tilts her head. Does it though? Audience gives that soft, oh. Mark chuckles. Depends on who you ask. Whoopi smiles. Well, some folks would say you've been pretty vocal lately. Joy jumps in before Whoopi can continue. Very vocal. Mark's smile tightens just slightly. Barely noticeable unless you're watching closely. Joy continues. You've made some strong political statements recently. Online. At rallies. You're not just playing superheroes anymore. Audience murmurs. A few claps. Mark nods slowly. I've always believed if you have a platform, you use it responsibly. Joy raises a brow. Responsibly is a matter of opinion. There it is, the first shift in tone. Mark keeps his voice even. Sure. But silence is also a choice. Audience claps louder. Joy leans back slightly. Joy responds. But do you ever worry that when celebrities speak out, they might oversimplify complicated issues? Mark doesn't hesitate. Do you worry when politicians oversimplify complicated issues? The audience reacts immediately. Some laughter, some clapping, some sharp inhales. Joy smiles, but it's thinner now. I'm not a politician. Mark nods. Neither am I. Whoopi steps in smoothly. Okay, let's breathe. Laughter from the crowd. Joy continues anyway. My point is, people watch you as the Hulk. They don't necessarily expect a policy lecture. Mark's tone shifts, still calm but firmer. I don't give policy lectures. I speak about human issues. Joy leans forward. But you frame them politically. Mark pauses. Because they are political. The audience gives another collective, oh. Whoopi glances between them. We're just getting started and I feel like we're already in it. Mark laughs lightly, trying to soften it. I promise I'm not here to fight. Joy responds quickly, nobody's fighting. But the energy says otherwise. Joy continues. Let me ask you directly. Do you think actors have a responsibility to speak out, or do you think sometimes it divides audiences? Mark considers the question. I think pretending we don't live in the same world as everyone else divides audiences. A few audience members clap. Others sit quietly. Joy shakes her head slightly. But don't you think when people buy a ticket to see a Marvel movie, they're not signing up for a political speech? Mark answers immediately. They're signing up to see stories about justice, power, responsibility. The audience claps louder now. Joy gestures with her hands. That's fictional justice. Mark smiles faintly. Is it? The studio goes quiet for half a second. Whoopi looks intrigued. Explain that. Mark leans forward, hands now resting on the table. Those stories resonate because they mirror real struggles. People connect to them because they see themselves. Joy crosses her arms loosely. That's a stretch. Mark's eyes narrow slightly, not in anger but focus. Is it? The Hulk is about anger. About control. About feeling powerless in a system bigger than you. Audience claps again. Joy responds. Now you're analyzing your own franchise. Mark shrugs. We all analyze culture. That's what talk shows do. Audience laughs loudly at that. Even Whoopi smirks. Joy smiles tightly. Touché. The tension isn't explosive, it's simmering. Whoopi interjects. Let's talk about something specific. You recently spoke about environmental policy. Joy nods. Yes, that. Mark nods back. Yes. Joy leans forward again. You criticized certain lawmakers pretty directly. Mark doesn't deny it. I criticize decisions. Joy presses, with names. Mark answers calmly. Accountability requires clarity. Audience applause rises again, but it's mixed, some hesitant. Joy tilts her head. Or it creates division. Mark replies, division already exists. The audience murmurs louder now. The temperature in the room has changed. Whoopi senses it. We're going to take a quick pause in a minute, but I want to ask, Mark, do you ever feel backlash affects your career? Mark nods honestly. Sure, but fear shouldn't dictate values. Joy jumps in. Easy to say when you're already successful. The audience gasps softly. Mark pauses, longer this time. The silence stretches just enough to feel real. He answers carefully. Success doesn't insulate you from consequences. Joy responds quickly, but it cushions them. The tension is now undeniable. Whoopi raises a hand slightly. Okay, we're going to continue this conversation, because clearly there's more to unpack. Audience applause, some enthusiastic, some nervous. Mark sits back slightly, but his expression has changed. Less playful now. More engaged. Joy adjusts her cards, but she's not looking at them anymore. The break music begins faintly in the background. Whoopi smiles toward the camera. We'll be right back. As the camera pans out, the audience buzz grows louder. People are whispering. A few are shaking their heads. Others are nodding. Mark and Joy exchange a few quiet words off mic, not hostile but firm. The conversation has officially moved beyond polite promotion. And it's only part one. The cameras come back up and the applause is a little louder this time, but it's not just excitement. It's anticipation. Whoopi leans forward slightly. All right, we're back with Mark Ruffalo. And we were in the middle of a conversation. Joy lets out a small laugh. That's one way to put it. Audience chuckles. Mark smiles politely. I'm still here. Whoopi looks at both of them. Let's keep it constructive. Joy, you were making a point about consequences and celebrity influence. Joy nods, posture upright now, fully engaged. Yes, my concern is this. When someone with millions of followers calls out specific lawmakers or policies, it can inflame people. You know that. Words carry weight. Mark answers calmly. I agree. Joy seems slightly surprised. You do? I do, Mark continues. That's exactly why I choose them carefully. Audience murmurs, some approving, some skeptical. Joy presses. But do you ever consider that your platform amplifies outrage instead of solutions? Mark pauses. He's thoughtful, not defensive. Outrage doesn't come from tweets. It comes from lived experiences. A few audience members clap. Others stay silent. Joy leans in. But you fuel it. Mark responds quickly, but without raising his voice. I reflect it. The audience gives another collective reaction. That mix of wow and tension. Whoopi steps in, trying to balance. Okay, let's ground this. Mark, when you post something critical, what's your goal? Mark answers without hesitation. Accountability. Awareness. Pressure for change. Joy counters immediately. Pressure from Hollywood. Mark tilts his head. Pressure from citizens. Joy shakes her head slightly. But you're not just any citizen. Mark's expression tightens slightly. That doesn't disqualify me. The audience applauds, louder this time. Joy looks toward the crowd briefly, then back at Mark. No one's disqualifying you. I'm asking whether it's responsible to use fame to steer political conversations. Mark responds, fame doesn't steer conversations. It magnifies them. Joy, exactly. Mark, and if something deserves magnifying? Audience applause breaks out again. Joy raises her hand slightly. See, this is where we disagree. You assume your perspective is the one that deserves the spotlight. Mark's tone shifts, still calm but firmer. No, I assume issues affecting millions deserve attention. Joy crosses her arms lightly. And the other side? Mark doesn't flinch. They have plenty of platforms. The audience reacts audibly. Whoopi leans back. This is getting spicy. Laughter cuts through the tension briefly. Joy looks at Mark directly. Let's talk about division. Do you believe your activism brings people together? Mark answers honestly. Not always. That admission lands. Joy raises an eyebrow. So you admit it divides. Mark nods slightly. Sometimes unity requires discomfort. The audience gives a louder, oh, than before. Joy shakes her head. Or it just alienates half the country. Mark replies, half the country isn't a monolith. Audience applause, scattered but strong. Joy leans closer. But when you frame issues in moral absolutes, you imply that disagreement equals immorality. Mark's eyes narrow slightly, not in anger but intensity. I speak about human rights. That's not a gray area for me. Audience claps again, louder now. Joy responds quickly. But policies are complex. Economies are complex. Global politics are complex. It's not just good versus evil. Mark nods. Agreed. Joy blinks. You agree? Yes, Mark says. Complexity doesn't negate morality. The audience goes quiet for a moment. Whoopi interjects gently. Mark, let me ask you something personal. Has speaking out cost you friendships? Industry relationships? Mark pauses longer this time. Yes. The honesty shifts the tone. Joy softens slightly. Really? Yes, Mark says quietly. People don't always like when you challenge power. The audience grows quieter. Joy asks, more measured now. Do you ever question whether it's worth it? Mark takes a breath. Every time. That answer lands heavily. Whoopi nods slowly. That's real. Joy studies him. Then why keep doing it? Mark answers, voice steady. Because I look at my kids, and I think about the world they inherit. Audience applause rises again, more emotional now. Joy nods slightly but doesn't retreat. And what about viewers who feel attacked by what you say? Mark responds. If someone feels attacked by a call for fairness, I'd ask why. The tension spikes again. Audience murmurs loudly, divided reaction. Joy's voice sharpens slightly. Because they may see fairness differently. Mark replies, human dignity isn't subjective. The audience claps loudly, some even stand. Joy looks toward the audience. See? This is exactly what I mean. Mark turns toward her. What do you mean? Joy, that framing. It implies anyone who disagrees is against dignity. Mark, no. It implies policies can undermine dignity. The exchange is quicker now. Sharper. Whoopi raises her hand. All right, let's slow it down. Joy continues anyway. Do you think there's space for conservative viewers in your audience? Mark answers immediately. Of course. Joy. Even if they disagree with you? Mark. Especially then. The audience gives a surprised reaction. Joy presses. Then why not listen more publicly instead of just speaking? Mark pauses. That one lands. He answers carefully. Listening doesn't always trend. Audience laughter breaks some tension. Joy smiles slightly. Fair. Mark continues. But I do listen. Privately. Conversations that don't become headlines. Joy leans back. So this is performative. Mark shakes his head. No. This is visible. Whoopi nods slowly. That's an important distinction. Joy looks at Whoopi. Is it? Whoopi shrugs. Visibility matters. Joy turns back to Mark. But visibility without compromise becomes noise. Mark's tone firms. Compromise on what? Joy, tone. Approach. Mark responds. I won't compromise on principles. Audience applause erupts again. Joy's expression tightens slightly. And that's where polarization grows. Mark answers, or where clarity grows. The audience reaction is louder than at any point so far. Applause mixed with murmurs. You can feel the room dividing. Whoopi senses it. We're clearly not resolving this today. Audience laughter, nervous but real. Joy glances at her cards but doesn't read them. I just think when you're in the public eye, you have to be careful not to preach. Mark replies quietly. And I think when you have influence, you have to be careful not to stay silent. The studio goes very quiet. That line hangs in the air. Joy looks at him, not smiling now. Whoopi looks between them. The audience doesn't clap immediately this time. They're processing. The tension isn't explosive. It's personal now, and the conversation is far from over. The air in the studio feels different now. Not loud, not chaotic, just heavier. Whoopi adjusts slightly in her seat and looks from Joy to Mark. Okay, let's take this somewhere productive, because this is clearly bigger than just tweets. Joy exhales through her nose, a half laugh that isn't really a laugh. It always is. Mark nods. It is. Whoopi folds her hands. Mark, some people would say actors are stepping into territory that used to belong to journalists and policymakers. Joy's concern, and I think it's fair to clarify, is about influence without accountability. What do you say to that? Mark doesn't rush his answer. I say influence always comes with accountability. I get criticized daily. That's accountability. Joy jumps in. Criticism isn't the same as responsibility. Mark turns slightly toward her. Explain. Joy leans forward. When you post something political and millions of people take it as guidance, you're shaping opinions. But you don't have to run for office. You don't have to answer to voters. The audience murmurs, some nodding. Mark nods slowly. True. Joy raises an eyebrow. So, Mark continues, calm but direct. But I do answer. Maybe not in an election, but in my career, my relationships, my credibility. Joy shakes her head. That's not the same. If you're wrong, nothing structurally happens. Mark's tone tightens just slightly. If I'm wrong, I lose trust. That matters. Joy counters quickly. To your fan base. Mark's eyes lock in. To me. The audience reacts to that, softer, more reflective. Whoopi interjects gently. Joy, do you think entertainers should stay completely out of politics? Joy doesn't hesitate. No, I don't think anyone should stay out of politics. I just think there's a difference between participating and leading. Mark replies immediately. I'm not leading anything. Joy gestures with both hands. With respect, you are. Whether you intend to or not. Mark leans back slightly. Then maybe the issue isn't celebrities speaking. Maybe it's why people trust celebrities more than institutions. That line hits. The audience responds loudly, applause mixed with surprised murmurs. Joy pauses for a second. Now that's a different conversation. Mark nods. It's the same conversation. Whoopi tilts her head. Go on. Mark continues, measured. If people look to actors for moral clarity, that says something about the institutions that are supposed to provide it. The audience claps again. Joy responds, but her tone is less sharp now, more analytical. Or it says something about celebrity culture. Mark smiles faintly. That too. There's a brief moment of shared acknowledgement. Joy shifts in her chair. Let me ask you this. Have you ever posted something and later thought, maybe I shouldn't have said that publicly? Mark doesn't dodge. Yes. Audience murmurs. Joy leans in. And, Mark continues. And I've deleted posts before. I've apologized before. Joy nods slowly. Okay, that's important. Mark adds, I'm not claiming perfection. Joy says, but sometimes your tone comes off as final. Like there's no room for discussion. Mark looks at her carefully. Isn't this discussion? Audience laughter breaks the tension. Joy smiles reluctantly. You know what I mean. Mark nods. I do. But sometimes urgency doesn't sound gentle. The audience quiets again. Joy replies, but urgency can alienate. Mark answers, so can indifference. The exchange is sharper now, quicker. Whoopi raises her voice slightly. Okay, hold on. Audience chuckles nervously. Whoopi continues. This is where people at home start picking sides instead of listening. Joy looks toward Whoopi. They're already picking sides. Mark nods slightly. They always do. There's a brief silence. You can almost hear the air conditioning in the studio. Joy turns back to Mark. Here's my real concern. When celebrities speak in moral absolutes, it can shut down debate. It can make people feel like if they disagree, they're bad people. Mark takes a breath. His tone softens slightly. I don't want anyone to feel like a bad person. Joy responds quickly. But do you see how it happens? Mark thinks for a second. Yes. That admission changes the energy. Joy blinks. You do. Mark nods. I see how strong language can feel personal. The audience murmurs, this time more empathetic. Joy says quietly, that's all I'm saying. Mark continues, but I also see how silence feels personal to people who are suffering. The audience applauds again, louder. Joy presses gently. But is social media the best place for that fight? Mark responds, it's where people are. Joy counters, it's also where nuance dies. Audience laughter, a little relieved. Mark smiles slightly. Nuance struggles on live TV too. The audience laughs louder. Even Whoopi smiles. Joy points at him playfully. Don't drag us into this. Mark shrugs. We're here. The tension eases for a moment. But Joy isn't done. She leans forward again. Do you think your activism has cost you roles? Mark hesitates. Probably. Joy. But you're still working. Mark. Yes. Joy's tone sharpens slightly. So the risk is theoretical. The audience gasps lightly. Mark's expression changes, more serious now. It's not theoretical when you're in the middle of it. Joy responds, but you haven't lost your career. Mark's voice stays calm but firmer. That's not the only measure of consequence. The audience claps, some loudly. Joy watches him closely. What is? Mark pauses. Peace. Relationships. Safety. The room quiets. Joy's expression shifts, less combative now. She asks softer, safety? Mark nods. When you speak out strongly, you get threats. A collective murmur runs through the audience. Joy sits back slightly. That's not okay. Mark replies simply, "No, it's not." Whoopi nods. Nobody should deal with that. There's a moment of genuine agreement. Joy looks at Mark differently now. "I don't want anyone threatened. My argument isn't about silencing you." Mark nods. "I know." Joy continues. "It's about whether the way we talk about issues is helping." Mark responds, "Sometimes help looks messy." Audience applause again. Not explosive, but steady. Joy sighs lightly. "I just worry that we're all shouting." Mark answers, "Then maybe we should model better conversation." He gestures slightly around the table. The audience reacts, a mix of applause and nervous laughter. Joy smiles faintly. "You think this is better?" Mark smiles back. "We're still talking." The audience claps louder now. Whoopi looks into the camera briefly, then back at them. "That's true." Joy nods slowly. "We are." There's still tension. It hasn't disappeared, but it's shifted, less combative, more layered. Mark leans forward again. "I don't expect everyone to agree with me." Joy responds, "Good." Mark continues, "But I do expect space to care loudly." The audience applauds. Joy takes a breath. "And I expect space to question loudly." Mark nods. "Fair." There's a long pause. The kind that only happens on live television when something real just happened. The audience doesn't know whether to clap or wait. Whoopi finally breaks it. "Well." The single word gets a ripple of laughter. But the atmosphere is still charged. The disagreement isn't resolved. It's just deeper now. The applause that follows isn't explosive. It's steady, thoughtful. The kind of applause that says the audience knows they just watched something real. Whoopi looks between Joy and Mark, then toward the audience. "Well, this has been one of those mornings." Nervous laughter ripples through the studio. Joy adjusts her glasses and exhales. "It has." Mark nods slightly. "Yeah." There's a brief pause. No one jumps in immediately. The tension isn't sharp anymore. It's reflective. Whoopi leans forward. "I appreciate that neither of you stormed off." The audience laughs louder this time. Joy smiles faintly. "I've been here long enough." "I don't storm." Mark chuckles. "I'm not flipping any tables." That line breaks the room. Even Joy laughs. But Whoopi brings it back. "Here's what I think people at home are seeing. Two people who disagree on approach, not necessarily on values." Joy nods slowly. "That's fair." Mark agrees. "I think so too." Joy turns slightly toward Mark. "I don't question that you care." Mark responds immediately. "And I don't question that you care." The audience reacts warmly, applause building again. Joy continues, more measured now. "My frustration is with tone in the broader culture. Everything feels like a declaration instead of a dialogue." Mark listens carefully. He answers calm. "I get that. I really do. But sometimes dialogue hasn't worked for the people who are hurting." Joy replies, "And sometimes declarations shut down people who might have listened." The exchange is softer now, but still pointed. Whoopi steps in gently. "Maybe both of those things can be true." The audience claps at that. There's a moment of quiet acknowledgement around the table. Joy folds her hands. "I don't want actors to be silent. I just don't want the conversation to become a megaphone war." Mark nods. "And I don't want silence to feel like complicity." The audience murmurs again, that familiar split reaction. Whoopi looks toward the camera. "And this is why these conversations are hard." Joy turns to Mark again. "Would you ever consider hosting a town hall instead of posting online?" Mark smiles slightly. "I've done some." Joy raises an eyebrow. "Televised?" Mark laughs. "Now you're producing my career." Audience laughter lightens the mood again. Joy shrugs playfully. "I'm just saying, face-to-face changes things." Mark nods. "It does." Joy adds, "People are less brave behind a keyboard." Mark responds, "And more human in a room." There's another beat of agreement. Whoopi leans back. "Look at that. We found common ground." Applause fills the studio again, warmer now. But the earlier tension hasn't vanished. It lingers in the edges. Whoopi glances at the clock. "We're almost out of time." Joy looks at Mark. "I'm glad you stayed in the seat." Mark smiles. "I respect strong questions." Joy replies, "Good. Because I ask them." Audience laughs loudly. Mark adds, "I can tell." There's a subtle shift, mutual recognition. Whoopi addresses the audience. "Here's the thing. Nobody here has all the answers. Not us. Not Mark. Not anyone tweeting." That earns strong applause. Mark nods. "True." Joy nods too. "Very true." Whoopi continues. "But talking through it matters." As the conversation winds down, the camera catches audience members whispering to each other. Some nodding at Joy's points, others clearly siding with Mark. The producer's voice can faintly be heard off camera, signaling the final seconds. Whoopi turns to Mark. Anything you want to say to viewers who disagree with you? Mark pauses, thoughtful. I hope we can disagree without dehumanizing each other. The audience applauds again, longer this time. Joy looks at him and nods once. That I can agree with. Whoopi smiles. And that's a good place to land. The applause swells as the segment wraps. But the story doesn't end there. As the cameras cut to commercial, the studio doesn't erupt into chaos. There's no shouting, no dramatic exit, just low, intense conversations. Audience members immediately pull out their phones. Within minutes, clips begin circulating online. By the time the show fully ends, social media is already dividing into camps. Some posts praise Mark Ruffalo for standing firm, calling him measured, calm, and principled. Others defend Joy Behar, saying she asked the questions many viewers were thinking, but were afraid to voice. Hashtags start trending alongside the view. Clips of specific moments. Silence is also a choice. Compromise on what? Listening doesn't always trend. Circulate rapidly. Comment sections explode. Some viewers say this is exactly what daytime TV should be. Real disagreement without shouting. Others argue it's proof that political tension has seeped into everything, even celebrity interviews. By early afternoon, entertainment blogs publish headlines analyzing the clash. Was it heated? Yes. Was it hostile? Not quite. Producers later confirmed that off camera, Mark and Joy spoke briefly before he left. No raised voices. No cold shoulders. Just a short exchange. A staff member mentions that Mark thanked the panel for the conversation. Joy, during a later segment, casually says, I like when guests push back. The audience applauds again. The moment becomes one of those talk show exchanges people reference for weeks. Not because someone stormed out, but because nobody did. Because the tension felt real. Because the disagreement didn't collapse into chaos. Because it reflected the conversations happening in living rooms across the country. By the next day, pundits debate whether celebrities should be activists. Others debate whether talk shows should challenge guests harder. But the clip keeps circulating, and viewers keep arguing. Some say Mark was right to stand firm. Others say Joy was right to question the impact of celebrity activism. And many say something else entirely, that the exchange showed how divided, yet interconnected, public discourse has become. Back in the studio the following week, the panel references it briefly. Joy smiles and says, well, that got people talking. Whoopi adds, it usually does. And that's the aftermath. No scandal. No cancellation. Just a conversation that struck a nerve. And now it's your turn. What did you think? Was Mark justified in speaking boldly? Was Joy right to challenge him? Did the conversation help? Or did it highlight deeper divides? Share your opinion in the comments and subscribe to the Star Talks for more real talk show stories.